Over the years in psychology, there have been many interesting findings, but there may be no other experiment as interesting as the Stanford prison experiment. The Stanford prison experiment was conducted in 1971 by a psychology professor at Stanford University by the name of Philip Zimbardo. Zimbardo's plan was to take some of the university students and study the psychological effects of becoming a prison or a guard. The 18 students would start the experiment, and half of them would be prisoners and half would be guards. They recreated a prison in a hall at the university to make it feel more realistic for the prisoner. Not only did Zimbardo recreate a prison for the students, but he also had them be picked up at home by police and arrested for armed robbery before the experiment started. Of course, it was all to make the experiment feel more genuine.
The participants were scheduled to go on with the experiments for 2 weeks. The guards wore clothing similar to prison guards. However, they also bore batons and mirrored sunglasses to hide eye contact. The prisoners wore uncomfortable mocks, stocking caps, and chains on their ankle. The guards were ensured by Zimbardo not to injure any of the prisoners. Day 1 was relatively normal as the prisoners adapted to prison life. When the guards took their shifts on their first night, there would be 3 prisoners to every guard. The guards found this challenging to watch all the prisoners at once. On day 2, the prisoners already started to revolt. They said that the guards were taking their positions too far and tried to remind them that this was simply an experiment. This angered the guards and caused them to make a prisoner's cell for those who were not going to riot.
It was called a privileged cell, and just like it sounds, those who were in the cell received rewards for not revolting. They even gave the prisoners better meals. The non-revolting prisoners chose to eat separately, causing a massive divide between the prisoners. After 36 hours, one prisoner let it get to his head and began acting crazy. He believed he was actually in prison and would not be released. After Zimbardo let him go, guards continued to harass prisoners, addressing them only by numbers and using physical punishment as a way to break their morale. Things only went downhill from there. Guards wouldn't allow some prisoners to use the buckets they were given for restrooms. They were also told mattresses were a privilege that had to be earned. Some prisoners were even forced to sleep naked under the guards' reign.
Zimbardo finally put a stop to this and shut down the experiment after 6 days. This experiment was an attempt to look at depersonalization and de-individuation among the prisoners. However, the behavior of the experimenters was much more situational than dispositional. Even though they knew they were being watched, the prisoners and guards modified their behaviors based on the situation. The guards decided to use dehumanized methods to break down the prisoners, while the prisoners tried to revolt against the guards. A third of the prisoners after the study reported that the guards showed, quote, genuine sadistic tendencies. The guards created a hierarchy that eventually the researchers put a stop to. The ethics of this experiment are often criticized. Zimbardo was not able to maintain scientific controls over his experiment. This was eventually his downfall and why his work is so highly criticized today.